Is Kyle Whittingham the most underrated hire of this 2026 cycle? There are a couple contenders here, but let's talk about what some coaches, staffers had to say anonymously about who they thought was the most underrated hire of this cycle. What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. If this is your first time watching Adapt and Respond, thank you for joining us here. We talk college football year round. If you're into that, hit that subscribe button, like this video, answer the question in the comments below. Who is the most underrated hire of this 2026 coaching cycle? Now, could be a head coach, could be a coordinator, but they do need to be new to the job if you are going to answer the question as honestly as I am approaching it. Some of you might choose to ignore this and say something like, Ryan Day staying at Ohio State is the biggest hire of the 2026 cycle. Oh, okay, cool, bet, whatever. But if you really want to dig into this question, there are a number of different ways to go, depending on what you expect in year one from said coach. So, for instance, if you were to pick Lane Kiffin at LSU, I think you need to have built in there the parameters for which we're probably going to judge him. And going 8-4 in year one at LSU is going to be a failure for Lane Kiffin in year one, because we expected him to not only go from strength to strength, but LSU gave him everything he asked for, not to go 8-4 or even 10-2, but to win the national title in 2026. That is how he is going to be measured this season. He got the quarterback he wanted in Sam Leavitt. He got the coordinator he wanted in Charlie Weiss Jr. He was able to retain the defensive coordinator he wanted in Blake Baker. They got stronger on offense and defense. And of course, there's the money that they are paying him. The second highest paid coach, the second highest paid coach in the sport, who has never won a national championship and has not won an SEC championship as a head coach. But I don't think that's the hire. Another way you could go with this is to the Big 12 with Eric Morris at Oklahoma State, where the Pokes are really gambling on a reskin North Texas team. My God, North Texas team to make them a Big 12 title contender. And when you look at the kind of money that they're paying Drew Mestemaker, which is almost on par with what they're paying the head coach, more than they're paying the coordinators, for a dude that not only walked on at UNT, but was offered on tape, you might go the 8-4 is a great way to go for them, because they went 3-9 last year. And not just that, but the Mike Gundy experience came to a really, really dark end after, 18 to 20 years with basically going bowling every year, which is where I think Oklahoma State wants to be. But they're more scared for their future in the Big 12 than anything else, because there will be realignment when the television network contracts come up around 2030, 2031. And we'll get to learn a whole lot more about just what it is we expect from these coaches and from these leagues as we continue to talk through them. But if you go 8-4, 9-3 at Oklahoma State, I think they're going to be ecstatic with that, especially knowing that this is a new era for them with a young head coach. They haven't had a young head coach since Mike Gundy first took over the job some 25 years ago, give or take. But I'm still old enough to remember Les Miles basically leaving at halftime of a bowl game to take the job at LSU, which is, again, kind of wild. But, we could keep going down that rabbit hole if we wanted to. But the most underrated hire in college football probably is in the Big Ten. And while many would probably be right to say Matt Campbell, because reskin Iowa State at Penn State with a guy who grew up in Ohio and has done nothing but turn Iowa State into a power, which is wild to think about, now has all the resources to make a true run at the national championship, especially given that James Franklin and Penn State were just playing the college football playoff a couple of years ago. But The Athletic talked to 25 head coaches, staffers, assistants, basically 25 people that worked in the industry. And of those 25, 8 people picked one guy. And that one guy they picked has done nothing but win since he became a head coach almost 20 years ago. But kind of like Mike Gundy, stayed in one spot. and turned that place over and over into a winner and didn't want to really leave it as a loser. I think what this man did from 2024 to 2025 shows that he can keep up with the times even at his age and even knowing what he thinks about the game of college football. It's what I would want Dabo Swinney to do. It's how I would want Dabo Swinney to go about his business, because Clemson has fallen off a cliff over the last few years. And a lot of that is due to Dabo being very Dabo. His convictions are his convictions. His beliefs are his beliefs. And Clemson might suffer because of those things, just as they were great because of those things. Double-edged sword, as they say. Or just, a friggin' broadsword. We can just call it a broadsword. We can do that. It's not a machete. It's a broadsword. But the 8 people that picked this man had some interesting things to say, and the man they picked is Kyle Whittingham at Michigan. So a Pac-12 assistant said, Kyle Whittingham at Michigan, that place is another one where you're going to have everything you need. You have that brand, and he's a proven winner. He's done a tremendous job with a lot less. That was a group of 5 program, talking about Utah, and he's right. Took them from the Mountain West to the Big 12, and they were competitive immediately. Then there's a Big 12 head coach who had this to say. Kyle Whittingham, all he does is win. That guy is a proven winner. The only risk with him is he's only been at Utah. So can it translate? He's never coached 5 stars like Bryce Underwood. Can you create that buy-in in today's age, in today's day and age, excuse me? That's a really good question to ask. And I think it's going to be fairly easy for him to coach 5 stars. I don't really think that that's the thing. Long time ago, when I was in undergrad, a major in exercise science, a major in English, I believed I was going to be a strength coach, study for the CSCS, all of it. The thing that I was made to understand, though, is that as a strength and conditioning coach, my job was not going to be making bigger athletes bigger and stronger athletes stronger or faster athletes faster. In some ways, yes, perhaps. You get the nice developmental project of a wiry, tall kid who's going to play offensive line. You get to throw some weight on him, and you get to help him achieve his dream of playing as a starter on a Division I football program. But for the most part, they're already going to come to you big, fast, and strong with a skill set that has been identified to help the program in a very specific way. And as a strength and conditioning coach, you are the steward for making sure that player reaches his potential in that very specific way that coaches would like to see it on display on game day. So coaching a 5-star means don't break them. It's a lot like having a Formula One car. And if I may, being the driver of a Formula One car. The car is designed. The car is as fast as humanly possible within the regulations that the sport allows. You're not going to make that car faster by driving it. What you're going to be able to do is try to get as much performance out of it from your ability to drive it and not overdrive it as possible. So don't break the car. First rule, don't break the player. If you have a rash of ACL tears or Achilles, you might be out of a job, because that's about your training. That's about what you have stressed and what you haven't stressed. And usually injuries come from parts of the body that are underdeveloped, because they're having parts that are overdeveloped are having to compensate, and that's just not how bodies work. Flexibility, those sorts of things. Injury prevention is at the top line of your defense. All to say, coaching a 5-star is going to be a whole lot of Kyle Whittingham just letting that dude cook. And that's the easiest thing in the world for many coaches to do. Some coaches struggle with it because they want to micromanage. But Kyle Whittingham is not a micromanager. That's what he's got coordinators and position coaches for. His job is to get the most that he possibly can out of that 5-star. And that just means building around him. In the case of Bryce Underwood, let's get that guy. Well, we got him. Jason Beck, a guy that knows how to coach dual threat quarterbacks that can run it and throw it, and is going to put an outstanding run game around him. Like I said in an earlier segment last week, that duo is going to do damage. And I could see why many, like myself, are very high on Kyle Whittingham as the most underrated hire of this 2026 cycle.